Throughout the past, international play has been able to provide some of the best moments in hockey history. Miracle on Ice, the Summit Series, and Sidney Crosby's golden goal in 2010 are just some of the most iconic events in not just the world of hockey, but in the world of sports. Now, before I actually get into what this video is about, I have some things to say. NHL players have been absent from the Olympic Games since 2014 when they went to Sochi, and there are tons of factors as to why this is the case, whether it be covering the insurance of players, injuries, or it being a disruptive part to the season. This quote is coming from the most hated man in hockey. No, not Brad Marchand, Gary Bettman. This argument actually blows my mind, considering that the NHL's main initiative over the past couple of seasons has been to grow the game internationally. So sure, let's send a couple players to Helsinki and to China at the beginning of the year for the Global Series, but no, we wouldn't dare let them play in the most exciting form of hockey that there is. In terms of the Olympics being disruptive to the season, then what does the All-Star Game do then? Let's face it, the NHL All-Star Game is the worst of the four major sports, and it's becoming less important to the players as the years go on. So, Bettman, stop acting like it's a disruptive part of the year and own up to the fact that you aren't sending your players because the NHL makes no money from it. I can 100% confirm that if the players had any real say in the decision, they would be on their way to Beijing in 2022, and they would trade the opportunity to represent their country for the All-Star Game without question. Anyways, hope you're all doing well and welcome back to another video. This past weekend, the IIHF announced the grouping for the men's ice hockey event at the 2022 Olympics in Beijing. And for this video, I'm going to be predicting the rosters for the teams I think have the best chance of winning gold. Team USA, Team Canada, Team Russia, Team Sweden, and Team Finland. Starting with my favorite, and probably the worldwide favorite to win this tournament, Team Canada would have the best offense in the whole world participating at these upcoming Olympics. To think of so many of their younger forwards such as McDavid, McKinnon, and Marner just starting to slowly enter the prime of their careers when these Olympics start is insane. Not to mention that Crosby, Marchand, Tavares, Stamkos, and Bergeron will all likely crack the lineup as well. So here are the lineups I came up with. Looking back, I might have switched Huberdeau with Brad Marchand just due to the fact that Crosby has played with Marchand at the World Cup of Hockey in 2016, but I think I'll be fine with anyone playing alongside McKinnon and McDavid. I think that the Canadian defense is also going to get a lot younger in 2022, with Cale Makar proving at just 21 years old that he's one of the best defensemen in the league, and Thomas Chabot being able to grow as the #1 defenseman in Ottawa over the next couple of seasons. And lastly, for goaltending, I have Jordan Binnington starting and Carey Price at backup, and I feel like those two are pretty self-explanatory. The US holds some of the best young talent in the league right now, and while a lot of their current stars are aging out and may not crack the lineup in 2022, I think they'll be in good hands. To headline the forwards, the US probably has the best centerman depth next to the Canadians. I have Austin Matthews on the first line alongside Patrick Kane, who will likely be the oldest forward in this group, and Johnny Gaudreau. To round out the rest of the centers is Jack Eichel, who snuck his way into Hart Trophy conversations this year, Dylan Larkin, and JT Miller. Of course, if both Tkachuk brothers were to go to these Olympics, you have to play them together, just for the story of it. Kyle Connor is another player who's broken out as a star winger in Winnipeg, and Jake Gensel has proven to be able to play in the clutch moments of the playoffs when playing with Sidney Crosby in Pittsburgh. As for the defense, I have both Columbus defenders Zach Werenski and Seth Jones on the top pairing, and both Bruins players Torrey Krug and Charlie McAvoy on the third group. Quinn Hughes is also a Calder Trophy candidate, and his speed would be a great factor when pairing with an aging John Carlson. For goaltending, I have Connor Hellebuyck starting and John Gibson as backup, which could easily change, but I just think with the team that Winnipeg has in comparison to Anaheim, Hellebuyck will have way more opportunities within the next 3 seasons to show off his skills when it matters most. Next up, we got Sweden, and after I put this lineup together, I realized they could potentially surprise a lot of people at this tournament. Their lineup is deceptively deep, where I have William Karlsson, a former 40-goal scorer for the Vegas Golden Knights, as their third-line center, not to mention their first line with Pettersson, Zibanejad, and William Nylander, which is just ridiculous. Their defensive core is one of the best in the world as well, with Hedman, Klingberg, Karlsson as their main stars, and I have Rasmus Dahlin on the third pairing, but he could easily make his way up depending on how his career goes. As for goaltending, this is probably their weakest point, as some of the other teams in this tournament have far more solid goalie depth in comparison to the teams I've mentioned. For Russia, they've lost one of their biggest assets in Evgeny Kuznetsov of the Washington Capitals after he was banned from international play for 4 years for drug use, making their centerman depth significantly worse. Although next to Canada, they have by far some of the best wingers in this tournament. Ovechkin, Kucherov, Tarasenko, and Panarin, and having Svechnikov on the third line, that could prove to be deadly. Their bottom six defensive core is probably the weakest part of their team because after Mikhail Sergachev and Ivan Provorov, there isn't a lot of solid top six worthy defensemen in this lineup. But what they lack in defense, they make up for in goaltending because having a duo of Andrei Vasilevsky and Sergei Bobrovsky is just filthy. Despite having a pretty bad year in Florida, Bobrovsky is still a former Vezina Trophy winner, and you can never be mad about having that in your lineup. Lastly, looking at Finland, their team has also gotten significantly younger, as their oldest player on this lineup is likely going to be Jonas Donskoi, the Colorado Avalanche, who is 28 years old now but will be 32 come time for the Olympics. Their top line can definitely compete with some of the best in this tournament, as Barkov, Laine, and Rantanen are all among some of the best young talent in the NHL. Rantanen is probably my favorite of the three, and before he got injured earlier this year, I had the Avalanche as my pick to win the Stanley Cup. Also, you may be wondering why I have Kaapo Kakko as a top 6 winger with almost nothing proved on an NHL level yet, but I think due to his production at previous international events, and the fact that he is still so young will give him a lot of time to grow and succeed with this tremendously talented group of Finnish players. As for defense, it seems to get even younger as Miro Heiskanen of the Dallas Stars and Henri Jokiharju of the Chicago Blackhawks make their first defensive pairing. Heiskanen is just 20 years old and has shown signs of playing like a 10-year veteran, and Jokiharju has made some head turns this year in Chicago as well. As for their goaltending, Tuukka Rask is obviously their number one choice, but Juuse Saros and Antti Ranta may prove to compete for that starting spot in the coming seasons. And there you have it. Those are my predictions for the top 5 teams that I think have a chance to win gold at the 2022 Olympics in Beijing. Personally, it's so hard for me to bet against Canada to win, especially at the Olympics, but I'm sure the US and Sweden will pose some big threats as the tournament goes on. Anyways guys, let me know in the comments if you enjoyed this video and what changes you would have made to these rosters. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.